Hello, I'm Douglas Maddy and welcome to Altered Perceptions. In this video I'm going to be reacting to David Blaine started hallucinating during his frozen in time stunt. Before we start this video, from the outset I'm very suspicious of David Blaine's frozen in time stunt. So when David Blaine does these amazing stunts that he does, it's difficult sometimes to tell if he's doing an illusion or if he's really doing what he's saying that he's doing. With the frozen in time thing, I'm very suspicious of it. I think it was a magic trick. I don't think he was really doing what he was claiming to have done, and I think there are ways around it. But I may be wrong, so this will be interesting for me to check out.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
So you first get on television, you first do these things, and then your magic evolves, and your magic goes from being just magic to some of the more insane things you've done, like standing in a block of ice. For how long did you do it for? 70?
Like 63 hours. Because I'm always late, so I showed up late. So I missed like the length of time I was supposed to do. So that's all. But I'm always late. I made it here on time though, didn't I?
You were early.
Yeah, perfect.
But
I rode the motorcycle here and was flying because I wanted to be on time, so I flew.
You were on time.
Yeah.
The ice thing. What made you decide to stand in a block of ice for 60+ hours?
Well, so I'll tell you that. So you were saying, how do you go from the magic tricks like
to these extreme physical endurance and
studying Houdini
things.
And all that stuff,
Yeah.
and then there's a poster of Houdini that I loved where he was buried alive, but he never did the stunt. He died before he got to do it, but he was going to get buried alive underground in a coffin. So I love that poster since I was a kid. It's like in the magic books, you see that poster.
Yeah, just to have a point on that, every time I've seen a David Blaine special, he's always had like a poster as well, very similar and reminiscent of the old magicians of the past. And again, every time I see one of those, it really kind of encapsulates the iconography of the stunt, all that time, all that era in one photograph. It's very much like a film poster kind of. When you see a film poster or an album cover, it kind of evokes all those feelings because you know what the content is inside, but it's all triggered by that one image. And when I see these magic posters, and we'll interject some here on the video, it kind of sums everything up beautifully in one photograph.
Yeah.
And anyway, so Bill, again, the guy I told you about, Bill Kalush, comes up to me and he's like, what about this? And he shows me an image of an Indian fakir that was buried alive for a month. He's like, what if you pretend to be buried alive in Central Park? We'll sneak you out and you'll come back a month later. And I was like, I always wanted to do like Houdini-like things, but I never wanted to copy. But that one he never did. So I was kind of like, well, that's interesting. But what if instead of doing it the way he did it, what if I did it and everybody could see that I was buried alive? So what if I was really just buried alive? Like, it can't be that hard. He's like, yeah, you can't do that. And I was staying at his place. So we got a coffin from Queens where actually Houdini was buried. I bought a coffin. We brought it back to his house. And then I would just practice sleeping in the coffin. Then suddenly, but then suddenly I realized you don't eat food. And then if you have a little thing to go to the bathroom, I did 4 days like nothing. So I'm like, okay, I can do a week. And that was it. And then I pushed the idea of doing the buried alive and convinced people to let me do it publicly. And what's funny is, like, firemen and stuff like would come to the stunt in the middle of the night and they would shine like holograms at me and their lights and stuff. And that's the ice. And then they would assume that I wasn't actually in there. Okay, so back to this one. Well,
let's go. But let's not jump around. So
Okay.
the buried alive thing.
Yeah.
Where did you do it physically? Where?
That was in New York City on the west side. Trump had like this bunch of properties that he was developing, and I was like, I want to be buried alive on one of your properties. Is that possible? He's like, sure.
Good old Trump.
Went around and that's where I did my first.
This is why I love the President of the United States of America. What a great publicity stunt for Trump. And you see, again, that's a very Houdini-like thing to do. Get with a businessman that would enjoy the publicity and get them to fund and promote the stunt on their land using their facilities. Great, perfect.
He just sent me his driver and I went around and that's where I did my first stunt. And it was...
How could they see you though?
And then Jimmy
I'm not aware of this
Niederlander,
one.
who I knew, who liked.
Oh, there it is, like that.
Yeah, so it was see-through, but right now, and then we put 6 tons of water on top of it, so that's basically it. And then, so I was there.
And how are you getting
Yeah,
oxygen?
there was see those two big holes. So the oxygen was being, see the holes above my head right there. So the air was being blown in and out. But it's pretty straightforward. Like that one's not, to me, not that impressive. Like if I said to you,
you just laid there for a week.
Yeah. You know what the hard part? I mean, sure, you body and you lose weight and all that, but the hard part of it is and you would never anticipate this being the hard part, but if you're not used to like peeing while standing in front of lots of people staring at you, it's actually really hard. So I'd be buried alive, and I had the trucker's tube on and all that stuff, which is like a con with a catheter or whatever. And people are there the whole time. Like it suddenly became like an event, and so there was never like, and they were like, oh, we'll cover it so no one can see. I'm like, no, then people are gonna think I'm sneaking in and out. So I had to learn. So I would close my eyes, like when you were a kid sleeping and you'd have those dreams. I'd have matches in front of them, and it would take me hours, and I'd finally be able to pee, right? But then, and by the way, I didn't eat for a few weeks before, so I had no food, so that was the other wasn't an issue. But what happened by midway through the stunt, I'd be waving and smiling and like peeing, and it was like nothing, you know? But these are things that you don't consider when you're practicing in your coffin in your house.
So I've done the thing where the longest I've ever fasted for is 7 days, and after the third, fourth day, it's not so bad. The first couple of days are the hardest because your body's going over from burning sugar to burning fat. And but after like 7 days, it wasn't a problem, you know. So I can understand the fact that he's fasted for a few weeks, and I can imagine going without food for a week. That's something. And also, when you go without food again, especially for the first few days, you feel kind of lethargic, and you know, because your body's you know, changing over its energy source, and you go into ketosis and all that kind of stuff. So you do want to be laying down a lot. So it's kind of ideal, really. So I've fasted. I've been in bed ill when I've laid down and been in hospital and laid down for like a week or so. So I'm sure we've all done that. And I've been to festivals as well, where you pee in the middle of a field in front of everybody. And so I understand what you're saying there. It's very weird when you're kind of standing at the urinals in the middle of a field at like Download or whatever. And so, but yet you combine all those things, and to be a spectacle at Trump Tower or wherever it is, where it's being built, where you're kind of laying down in a box, in a coffin, pissing yourself, it's hilarious. And to get paid for that as well, it's a really good job. It's great if you can get the work.
David, I could just say that you have great courage. I wouldn't do this on any kind of a bet, but it's going to be interesting, and lots of luck, and enjoy it. And I'll see you in about a week, I hope. I hope. David is the best at what he does. He's the greatest living magician, and I don't know how he does this one, but he's right now 6 feet under.
The two main things that if I was to do that I'd be concerned about is just the lethargicness of not being able to get up and move around, and also like the claustrophobia of sort of like knowing that you can't get out. The rest of the stuff, I suppose that he must have had some sort of an exit route or something that, you know, because ordinarily if somebody's buried alive as a magician, that it's all staged and there's an actual way of doing it where you're completely safe. Whereas with this, it would entail a bit of daredevilness that David Blaine is famous for. So yeah, they're the only two things that I'd find difficult about this. Is laying still for a week. That would be very difficult because I like to move, and it sees all your muscles and your bones and stuff. And the other thing is the claustrophobia of it, just like the feeling of feeling trapped, and just moving around in the night when you want to get comfy. You know, it must be if you pull a muscle or something, it must be very difficult to maneuver yourself.
You didn't eat for how long? 2 weeks before?
Yeah, but I was always into fasting. I read Siddhartha as a kid, and I had done like a week with just water, and knew all that. Knew the body's really good with that.
So you were comfortable with the fact that you were able to fast and that wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah.
And you were comfortable with the fact that you were getting air.
Yeah.
And where are you drinking water from? How are you getting water?
I had like a little bit of water in there that I could suck through a thing like that, and that was fine. It was enough.
How much water do you think you drank over the week that you were in there?
I don't know. They always say it was like just a little bit, but it was a good amount. It was like I don't know, probably 3 liters a day or something.
Okay.
Yeah,
So it's real water.
They say he did tablespoons of water, but no, it was like a normal amount.
So
and then, by the way, I did 44 days with nothing but water, and I did nothing but pure H2O. So it's not even like it had minerals in it, and body was full recovery. And my starvation expert, who's like one of the top guys in the world in London, my doctor at the end thought that I was cheating.
Oh, I thought he said I thought the doctor was a magician. I was like, oh no, he's cheating because he is a magician. Oh yeah. No, again, this is what I thought, and it did start off. The whole thing was frozen in time. It's probably why the video is so long, because he's talking about his other stunts as well, of being buried alive, and when he was in the box in London. So yeah, no, I'm always suspicious about David Blaine, but the more I get to know him, and since I've seen him swallow that frog and regurgitate it, I'm like, oh, this dude's crazy. It's okay. He's probably doing the stuff that he's saying that he's doing.
So they put me on an
distilled
IV.
water?
It was a company called H2O, and their thing is it's just pure, exactly.
Distilled.
Right. So
No
it had,
minerals.
right,
Yeah.
which is irrelevant, by the way. But so I had nothing but pure H2O for 44 days, lost 60 pounds. BMI, bone mass index dropped 33%.
Yeah, people get. That's what I was going to.
Yeah, no, it was bad. No, it wasn't good. Yeah, it wasn't good. But doctor thought I was cheating because he's a magician. By the way, my friends that were with me that are, magicians, and the guy building, they're like, you need to take these vitamins, and they hand me a handful of sugary vitamins, and I'm like, no. It's just because if I'm going to do it, I want to like actually do it, right?
Right.
And if I would have taken those vitamins, I feel like my metabolism wouldn't have gone into starvation mode, and I might have had irreversible damage from it. So the fact that I actually did it, I went into starvation mode, and the body protects itself.
Yeah, I learned a lot about fasting when I went into doing it for the first time, and it's true. Yeah, if you give yourself supplements and vitamins, and if you have small meals and stuff like this, and people can say, oh, it's okay as long as you eat fat, you're still in ketosis. It's not true. Like, your body's it's kind of binary. You go into burning fat. You don't need, in the moment you trigger insulin again, it messes everything up.
That's interesting.
But what I was saying is the starvation expert that now I have a paper published in the New England Journal of Medicine with him, which I'm pretty proud about. But he didn't believe me, so he put me on an IV, and right away the phosphate levels reacted, and I almost went into shock. So I almost actually did die when they fed me.
Yeah, this is called refeeding syndrome, and this is one of the reasons, because I wanted to do a 40-day fast, and this is one of the reasons why I decided against it. Is because of the refeeding syndrome. You can die and have serious injuries by starting eating again if you do it incorrectly. And so the best way to fast, the optimal amount I would say, is if you're going to do it, is 3 to 4 days. Like, after 3 days, the immune system completely rejuvenates itself. If you can do a day fast, a couple of day fast, every other day fast, it's a huge thing now. A couple of years ago, fasting, people thought it was crazy and weird, and they didn't want to talk about it, especially at the time that he was doing it. This is quite a few years ago, but all throughout history, people have fasted. They had to, because there was no food available, and people still survived. A lot of people think you go into starvation when you fast. It's not true. It's only after you've used up all your fat reserves that then body starts digesting other organs and muscles and stuff. So yeah,
his paper is called the refeeding syndrome. They say, like, after World War II, when they rescued from the camps, the Jews and everybody was starving in the camps, and a lot of soldiers gave them like candy bars and stuff, and all of a sudden their systems went into shock, and they died from not being refed the right way.
So what is the correct way to refeed someone if they haven't eaten in all those days?
You can also do this when you change diet as well. This isn't medical advice, but it's just to elaborate on his point, is that just by giving a candy bar to somebody, they could die or whatever. It's also true if you change your diet from having a really bad diet where you're eating like a lot of fast food to eating really good foods like fruits and vegetables and all that kind of healthy stuff. In the same way that your body can have a reaction to it, and you can come up in spots and all sorts of things can happen just because the the bacteria in your stomach and all that hasn't got used to it, so it's a bit of a shock to the whole system. And we're creatures of habit.
Slowly bring them back so that you don't have what happened to me, which is phosphate levels go all crazy.
So
and you
very
can go into
small
shock.
amounts of food.
Yeah, but then 2 days later, somebody sent me a trunk from Harrods full of food in London, like a friend, and and I was giving it to all the nurses and doctors because I knew I shouldn't eat it, and I was trying to do it right. Then, like in the middle of the night, I woke up and had like a bag of potato chips, right, and then a bagel with cream cheese, and I was wrecked. It was like the most pain. So I also didn't go to the bathroom for a month and a half.
What?
Think about that.
So how long does it take you to recover from one of these things?
That one I feel like I never fully recovered from, but
How
like
so?
I don't know. I wouldn't recommend anybody does that. Like goes like super long with no food. But by the way, so the recovery.
When you say you don't think you ever recovered, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, my body always goes like this now. It's always confused when I like train. I go up, down really quick, really easy, and it was since that.
There's that, and that's why I didn't do it in the end, because I wanted to do it to be like Jesus, but why wouldn't you? Well, Jesus did it, so why not? And all the religions say long period, but 40 days is too long. You meet the devil at day 30. And he did it in the desert, so he was doing stuff before David Blaine was. But yeah, I looked into it. I looked at a lot of. There's a lot of people now do it, and they report it on YouTube when they do the 40-day fast and stuff like that. I don't recommend any long-term fast, and any long-term fast is like longer. I believe longer than 4 days or 7. As soon as you get into 7 days, that's considered a long-term fast. So, but 40 days is just ridiculous. Yeah, and also when you do things like this, these stunts, there's a fitness function level. So if you do too less of something, it's not good for you because you're not getting enough of it. And if you do too much of something, it then causes the counter problem. So there is a nice kind of fitness function in the middle, which is the optimal amount. And so if you are going to do fasting, I'm not recommending that you do, but but it's a natural part of life is that you don't eat when you're asleep, do you? So if you do skip breakfast or something like that, it's best to find what your level is and to listen to your body, and to be very careful with what you decide to do and your life choices, especially when it comes to fasting.
Because your body freaked out because it went into starvation mode.
Yeah, I feel like that.
Yeah.
But there's no way to prove that. But
that's a common thing though with people who cut weight for fights.
Really?
Yeah, they get to a certain point when they have kidney failure, and and then their body.
Right, exactly. That's what happened to me, and I keep having problems with my kidneys.
Yeah.
All right, Dave, calm down.
I have a spot on my kidney right now.
Okay, no one forced you to do it. People at the time said, he's crazy for doing it. Why is he doing this? It's going to mess him up. And it did. Now he's like, meh.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and I have a spot on my kidney right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. That's funny.
That's a real common one with guys. Daniel Cormier actually had to drop out of the Olympics because of that.
I didn't know that.
His kidneys failed. Yeah, kidney failure is a big one with fighters. Kidney stones too for a lot of guys who cut weight. So that was probably, in your opinion, the one that damaged you the most, or left the most residual damage.
So the most difficult one was the ice.
By far.
So we're 9 minutes into the video. Now he's talking about the frozen in time ice stunt. Let's have a look at it.
By far, the ice was a monster. And the reason why was because, and now there's also something great about it. So it was a warm November, so the air coming through was like, it happened to be a 68-degree 3-day spread, which led to the ice keep dripping the cold on me, and it's radiating this way. But I'm also standing up in one spot completely still, and you can't sleep because if you fall asleep and you're present to ice, you get frostbite. You have to cut your skin off, right? So I'm staying completely awake the entire time, and it's a difficult situation. On hour 55, exactly hour 50, I look back at all of it, and my friends knew, my eyes just go out, and I'm now hallucinating like you could never, ever. No hallucinogenic drug will ever give you those kind of hallucinations.
Like what was it?
First of all, it's amazing, but it's also when it goes into that nightmare part, it's scary.
I'm watching this, and I know how it could easily be faked. The Masked Magician, I believe, demonstrated how it could be faked. But I think he actually did it because I think he just likes the experience of doing it. like a stuntman does, like Evil Knievel or something. I think he actually enjoys it. So even me as a magician, knowing what I know and listening listening to him, he might have actually done it. I don't know. It is a grey area with David Blaine.
Also that amazing part of it. And if you have people after that stunt, now whenever I hallucinate on stunts, I have friends there that I say I'm going to start hallucinating, just talk me through it. But so here's when I started realizing that I was hallucinating, because you don't know when you are, right? And by the way, the one stunt I never did was sleep deprivation. If you remind me, I'll explain that whole thing, but I'll forget. But so what happens is, when I started realizing it, is I need to know like what time it is, because I'm done at 10 p.m. because it was live on ABC. So I'm like, I need to know how much longer I got to go through this, right? Because it's getting tough. So and it's there. By the way, and my doorman would come and like news or whatever, Fox News said David Blaine is not really in the. They did a special on it, an hour-long special on Fox, saying that I was never in the ice and I had a double of me that was in the ice. I'm switching up and down with him while eating burgers and reading
Fox
the news.
News
Yeah,
did that?
no, Fox.
Oh,
Fox,
Fox.
the TV station.
Oh.
Yeah. So they did a 1 hour special that I was never in there. So my doorman.
How do they get away with doing
I
that?
don't know. I don't care. But listen, so my doorman who comes to. This is the funny part though.
But there's also that amazing part of it. And if you have people after that stunt, now whenever I hallucinate on stunts, I have friends there that I say I'm going to start hallucinating, just talk me through it. But so here's when I started realizing that I was hallucinating, because you don't know when you are, right? And by the way, the one stunt I never did was sleep deprivation. If you remind me, I'll explain that whole thing, but I'll forget. But so what happens is, when I started realizing it, is I need to know like what time it is, because I'm done at 10 p.m. because it was live on ABC. So I'm like, I need to know how much longer I got to go through this, right? Because it's getting tough. So and it's there. By the way, and my doorman would come and like news or whatever, Fox News said David Blaine is not really in the. They did a special on it, an hour-long special on Fox, saying that I was never in the ice and I had a double of me that was in the ice. And I was switching up and down with him while eating burgers and reading
Fox
the news.
News
Yeah,
did that?
no, Fox.
Oh,
Fox,
Fox.
the TV station.
Oh.
Yeah. So they did a 1 hour special that I was never in there. So my doorman.
How do they get away with doing that?
I don't know. I don't care. But listen.
But this is the thing. So Fox News have done it. The Masked Magician have done it. You can easily see how it could have been done. So at the end of the day, did he do it or not? It's like the moon landing all over again, isn't it?
So my doorman who comes to, this is the funny part though. So my doorman that comes to see me, he knows me so well. And he was Buried Alive, and he's so nice, right? So he comes to visit me in New York, and he walks up to the ice, and he sees me, and he's looking at me all weird. I wasn't hallucinating it. He's looking at me all weird. Then he leaves. And then when I go back, I was like, "What's up?" He's like, "That." Are you sure that was you in ice? Could that have been you? I was like, what do you mean, Eddie? He's like, okay, well, it's, so we go on. That special airs. Now he's convinced that it wasn't me, and
The special airs while you're still in the
No,
ice.
that's after. But
Okay.
he already thinks, because he doesn't believe it. My best friends, when I was buried alive, they didn't think I was really doing it.
Well, hopefully he doesn't fall in, like, a frozen lake or something like that and look at him through the eyes. No, that's not Dave. And walk away. Come to identify the body. He hasn't properly thawed out yet. No, he's still alive, walking around somewhere. I don't know what happened to him.
They thought it was a trick.
Right.
So he asked me, he's like, was that really you? Because they said that you were a double of yourself and you were switching it. I was like, Eddie, but you looked at me. Like, how could, if I have a twin brother, like, where is that identical twin brother? And why would I switch up? So anyway, so back to the when I get to 55 hours. So I'm looking around and I need the time. So I go like this. Like, what time is it? And the guy goes,
4:02.
yeah. So
Okay.
he shows me 4:02. So I'm like, okay, that means we have like another 6 hours or whatever it is, right? By the way, my time estimations were, so I'm like, okay, I wait. Or it might have been 2:02. I wait, and I wait, and I'm indoor. It's hard. I'm like, things are moving, everything's weird. Spiders are walking up. People are like sitting in the ice. I'm waiting. waiting. Voices are talking to me that I'm talking back to, right? But I'm waiting, and I wait for like a few hours before I ask anybody the time again. And I see somebody, and I'm like, and the guy goes,
4:03. Oh no.
And that's when it all crashed out. It was like that connection, and then the hallucinations were just rampant, and my eyes were all crazy when the chainsaw was coming through. I tried to grab it. Yeah.
So
Yeah, see? Look at that.
Oh, God.
But now that I've learned that sleep deprivation is one of the most amazing ways, if it's controlled, to go to another place. It's like the
I've
native.
heard that, but
yeah.
Yeah, don't sleep deprive yourself because you might end up grabbing chainsaws. Again, I had a sick son, and I was sleep deprived for years, and I had very little sleep at night, and it changes your state of mind completely.
before we get to that, like while you're in there, what are you doing to occupy your mind? Like, were you using meditation? Were you just thinking? Were you just winging it? Like,
So for some of them, what I do first of all, yeah, a lot of things you have free time to think. Like there's no phones, no
Right.
distractions. So aside from the physical, but the one thing that I use with everything is kind of like a breakdown of numbers. I'm like, okay, I have this much. I have to get to this point. Then when I get to this point, even when I run on a treadmill, I'm like, okay, I have to get to this point, which means let me get to the halfway point,
Right.
and I'll consider that. When I'm holding my breath, I do the same thing. Like, okay, I need to get to 15 minutes, so let me get to 7, and I'll start at 7.
That's a good way of tracking goals and monitoring milestones towards your end goal. Tracking progress is one of the ways in which you can keep you motivated and stuff like that. So if you ever end up in a difficult situation, if you can monitor where you're at and how far you've got left to go, it just makes all the difference, and it gives you you're then less distracted by all the things that could make you fail and more focused on the outcome and tracking your goal. Tracking goals is a huge thing, especially in fitness.
Then at 7, I'm like, okay, I'm at 7 left. I have to get to another 3.5, then 3.5.
Right.
And then what I always do is whenever I'm training, I always go past it. So it's the same thing. So like when I'm running a treadmill, I'm like, if I have to do, let's say 3.1, whatever it is, I set that as my target, but then I always go like another half a mile past it because you can't quit before, because then you'll be in the mindset that, okay, I can stop before. So like anything that I do, I use numbers to get there. I get halfway, and then I push the goal further every single time, no matter what. So it's a mathematical system, ironically.
So you don't necessarily have any sort of meditative techniques. You're just concentrating on the numbers.
Meditation for breath holding all the time.
right.
Every time I do a breath hold,
But not
it's
in the
all
ice.
No, the ice was kind of, there was like a breathing thing, and I didn't really know much about it back then, but I was like more like fighting it.
What is it like on your ankles or your knees and your back?
Everything swells up like edema really bad and all that stuff, and the pain is excruciating and unbearable. But yeah, you're waiting.
And you didn't have any residual effects of that?
Just my ankles and legs were really swollen.
Just
I
for a
couldn't
few
walk
days
right.
or so?
Longer than that, but yeah.
Now, has anybody ever tried to break that?
I don't know. I hope not. And not because I don't care about how long. I just don't want anybody to hurt themselves.
But I would imagine like someone does something so high profile like you did that people would be like, I'm going to try that.
I bet Wim Hof could do it. Even just standing up without sleeping for a few days, it's difficult.
I mean, I think it's too weird, so people aren't really like, oh, I want to do that.
But there's billions of people. I would imagine that someone would step in and try to emulate that. Obviously, it was so...
I pray not, and that's why I pray my daughter never becomes a magician, even though she's so amazing at it, because if she started doing these things, if she's going to bump her knee, I'm like, I have a heart attack,
Well, that's the problem with being a parent, right?
Yeah.
The things that make you amazing are your ability to overcome adversity, and then you shelter your children from adversity. It's all my favorite people. They all came from a very tumultuous childhood. They all came from like turmoil, and no one wants that for their child. You want to protect your children.
Yeah.
It's weird.
David Blaine started hallucinating. Yeah, David Blaine started hallucinating during his frozen in time stunt. Yep, I believe that he did. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and you'll be notified of our latest videos.